In a war between the expanding EDM genre and the dwindling rock music industry, No Straight Roads tells a dystopian revolution story set in the futuristic and appropriately named Vinyl City. No Straight Roads presents itself charmingly while hooking me on its story and characters. I just wish its gameplay could consistently do the same. Taking place in a dystopian future where civilians are running through an energy crisis, the figureheads of this world are obsessed with the ever-popular EDM genre. A TV show somewhat like American Idol launches new talent to the top and anything that doesn't fit into the EDM genre to the bottom. That's where our protagonists come into play. The duo band Bunk Bed Junction, consisting of the spunky Mayday and her polar opposite best friend, drummer Zook, enter the NSR competition, and despite attracting the audience, they lose the competition. Down on their luck, the duo return home when a power outage stops them in their tracks. Suddenly they realize that the NSR is rerouting their power lines to only the upper class. That revelation is just enough to fire up Bed Bunk Junction and get them to start a music energy crisis revolution for the people of Vinyl City. Mayday is a peppy and always optimistic character that you can't help but just root for, as she tries her best at just about anything despite the odds. Zook on the other hand is a bit more mellow and realistic, but is always there to support his best friend. Together the two are some of the most admirable characters I've had the pleasure of playing as this year. Their sense of humor, especially the writing in the game, does evoke this sense of camp, but it's oddly charming in this case, and I found myself actively loving the game more because of it. No Straight Roads is a third-person action-adventure game with a touch of rhythm elements added on top of it. At its core, it's a game about music that dabbles into being a music game, but overall it plays more like an adventure game. The influences from the Psychonauts series and Double Fine in general is quite apparent. You can play as either Mayday or Zook, each of them having their own playstyle. Mayday, for example, is a heavy tank character that uses her guitar to slam enemies. Zook, on the other hand, uses his drumsticks as a lightweight character that deals lighter but faster damage on enemies. In the single-player 6-hour campaign, you can swap between the two on the fly. A co-op mode also lets you play both at the same time with a friend, while an exclusive 3-player co-op mode for Switch lets a third-person play an assist role, similar to the 2-player mode in something like Super Mario Galaxy. The gameplay is broken down into areas that consist of smaller sandboxes where you can fight smaller enemies, leading up to one grand boss fight, which there's a total of 6 of in the game. The sandboxes leading up to these boss fights are pretty simple button-mashing sections that are presented beautifully but don't leave a lasting impact in terms of the gameplay. Enemies attack you based on the rhythm of the song in the background. The idea is cool, but it doesn't feel as fleshed out as it could have been. In a way, it's symbolic of the way you're fighting against the beat story-wise and now quite literally gameplay-wise. However, it doesn't feel all that well thought out, as most of these fighting sections just led to mindless button mashing. It's not bad, but not great either, just adequate. Luckily, the boss fights are much better. They're quite literally the stars of the show. Whereas the introductions to these boss fights can feel simple and a bit rushed in terms of content, not so much on the presentation I might add. The boss fights on the other hand feel well thought out with a great amount of care given to them. In these moments, the gameplay feels on par with NSR's impeccable story and characters. The personality of these characters shines in these multi-step boss fights that are the most memorable parts of the campaign. These boss fights are essentially just us hijacking EDM concerts to spread the rock genre where the NSR denied it. With every new concert that's hijacked, more rock fans join a revolution toward regaining energy and spreading it evenly across the city. That's actually the other half of the game, exploring the city for these energy capsules hiding across the hub world. It's here that you can make friends with civilians and invest the energy you find to lighting up more of the city. Occasionally I found some secrets and items in the areas that further improve my character's attacks by learning new combos or just using stickers that improve the stats of my characters. However, these stat buffs never felt like they truly did anything in the long term, due in part to the mostly button mashing combat. No Straight Roads looks like something you'd see Double Fine put out in the early 2000s. The character designs, the animation behind them, and even their portraits when they're speaking. There's a lot of charm here in its visual style that made me instantly fall in love with the presentation. When it came to performance, it sadly wasn't love at first sight. Across all platforms, NSR targets 60 frames per second, and while it's stable on most platforms, it struggles the most on Nintendo Switch, the platform I mainly reviewed it on. On Nintendo Switch, the frame rate typically hovers in the high 50s, mostly hitting the 60 FPS mark. Certain larger areas like the hub world with a quick camera pan do occasionally cause a quick drop in frame rate. While that so much isn't the problem, the combination with the free camera that can at times feel a bit janky is more of the problem. That's yet to mention that on Switch, the resolution can get quite low, especially in portable mode. This is where NSR truly shines. Despite the whole war against EDM in the game, it's quite apparent that the team behind the title are fans of both rock and EDM. During gameplay, I heard a lot of EDM and rock, especially during boss fights that seem to use it the most cleverly. As these boss fights progress, I began to hear a lot more of the rock aspects overcome the EDM parts of the track that evolved as the fights did. These moments were well done and easily are some of the best use of music in the game. On top of the great music, the voice actors behind these characters do a phenomenal job at portraying their characters. The mostly Malaysian cast truly shines here, and you can tell that a lot of love from the culture is put at the forefront from the also Malaysian developers. No Stray Roads has a lot of love and care put into it, and I think it's most apparent in its story and characters. I love being in Vinyl City and being able to play as this lovable duo of rockers. The boss fights were awesome, and the developers' conjunction of creating these marvelous multi-step fights that fit so well with the music was impressive. Sadly, the other half of the game that consists of well-presented but shallow gameplay of button mashing smaller enemies and exploring a world that feels like it could use a bit more rewards or an incentive to explore wasn't as great. This isn't the next indie masterpiece I start telling all my friends that they have to go play, but it's one I think is worth checking out on sale and one I hope gets a more polished sequel. I know for a fact that I don't want this to be the end of this duo.